Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Monday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, man. It's 3:29 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, this is going to be a fairly serious video. I want you to hang with me here. I'm just going to go through my memory and I'm going to try to share with you guys a good portion of my life. And there's a reason why I'm doing this. I feel this is one of the things I feel most strongly about. And I need to talk about. I really pray that this video actually, I don't care if it gets monetized. I pray this video gets a lot of views, especially from parents and relatives of people that are in addiction. Okay, that being said, the idea, this all got riled up again about 4 days ago. I happened to be working out. No, actually I was painting and I had the TV on in the background and ABC News came on. They showed a Homeland Security meeting because Marjorie Taylor Greene is on the Homeland Security committee now due to Kevin McCarthy. A picture out of all people, Marjorie Taylor Greene being on the Homeland Security committee, but that's not what this video is about. And she starts screaming they're talking to Homeland Security head Mayorkas, the head of the Homeland Security, and Marjorie Taylor Greene starts screaming at him. I'll put the link down to this right on. I'll put this link on the first right on top so you guys can see the video yourselves. And she does a performance piece, Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she starts screaming at Mayorkas, calling him a liar. Because, I'll sum it up, she feels very strongly that he is allowing millions of people to be poisoned by China. And she talks about the grieving parents and these poor children, and you're allowing Americans to, and she keeps using this word, poisoned. You know, these innocent Americans. And I'll put some more links down below. The people, this is what makes me so angry. She's doing the entire, this is my opinion, she's doing the entire system of recovery, of helping people come out of addiction, people like me. She's doing the entire system of recovery a disservice by this, the way she's painting this situation. The vast majority of people who are overdosing from fentanyl are opioid addicts. I'm going to tell you about how I became a heroin addict. I'm going to tell you about that, and I'm trying to make my point here. And why invading Mexico or going to war with Mexican cartels will not do a bit of good, not one bit of good. And I say, I'm not saying this because I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'm saying this from the point of recovery and my concern for what's happening here. Okay. Like I said, she just starts screaming, calling him a liar. You're allowing all this, these poor children to be murdered, to be poisoned by China. Okay, like I said, there'll be links down below for this. I'm a recovering opioid addict. The vast majority of these people have an addiction, a very big addiction issue. If you happen to cut off fentanyl, if tomorrow fentanyl disappeared from the world, what do you think would happen? Do you think all these poor people that are being poisoned all across the country, you think all of a sudden it'll stop and everything will be better? No. I'll tell you, people may be different. People are all different. But I'll tell you this is something I sincerely believe, and I've met thousands of addicts over the last the 16 years I've been in recovery, plus the 2.5 decades before that when I was an addict. I've met thousands of addicts, and addicts are all the same. If you cut off fentanyl tomorrow, I'll tell you exactly what will happen to every one of those people that was going to use fentanyl. They will go out and they will use twice as much, or 10 times as much, or 20 times as much heroin, or OxyContin, or Dilaudid, or any other opioid. And if they can't find an opioid, they will go out and use crack cocaine or methamphetamine. I know, because I did this. Okay. What she's doing here, she's blaming the entire problem on China. And America is just innocent. These innocent people are being killed. And I'm not saying they are addicts. The vast majority of these people, there might be some instance where a child gets poisoned by accident here. or a child or a teenager means to take this illicit drug and doesn't realize that there's some fentanyl in it. It will also exist. This person's also, just taking pills they buy on the street, which is kind of addict behavior. What I'm saying here is the vast majority of these people have addiction problems, and that in itself is the problem. If you got rid of fentanyl tomorrow, it will not stop one single addict from going out and taking 10 times or 100 times as much of what other, because you know why? Because people keep telling them that the drug they're taking is 50 times stronger or 100 times stronger than the drug they used to take. So as soon as they can't get that drug, what do you think? I know, because I've done this. They're gonna go out and they're gonna get the heroin production will boom in the Golden Triangle, in Afghanistan. That area will fire up like you wouldn't believe. And the problem here is addicts know that fentanyl is so strong. So what are they going to do? I know exactly. I know that I have this mentality in my head. They will go out and immediately take as much heroin or Dilaudid or whatever, or Oxycontin or fentanyl patches or legal fentanyl they could steal from pharmacies. They will do whatever. Beg, borrow, kill, steal, whatever it takes to get this drug. I know. The production in Afghanistan, the Golden Triangle, will skyrocket. I'll have a connection to the Golden Triangle down below. The Golden Triangle, the connection down below, because that's the area that first pretty much got me addicted. All right, let me start at the beginning here. I looking back, I exhibited addict behavior. I talked about wanting my mom to buy me brandy. I remember being in a drugstore when I was 10 years old, and I hadn't started drinking or using drugs yet, but I just wanted to feel different. I started smoking pot when I originally moved to a tougher part of town, the bad side of the tracks. After my father died, my mom bought a house, but she could only afford a house in the bad side of the tracks, Oakville, as compared to Watertown, Connecticut. And a lot more people. I ran into people smoking pot. And I remember finishing my paper route one day, and I was walking through the woods to my house, and I came across 5 or 6 of the tough guys from the neighborhood, one girl rolling up 100 joints sitting in the woods. And they get the girl to come over to me. I had never smoked pot up until this moment. And they wanted her to give me a shotgun. I was 14 years old. A shotgun is when she puts the joint backwards into her mouth, the lit end. And this girl was gorgeous, one of the hottest girls I'd ever seen. And so of course I went along with it. And then she blows, and I put my lips to hers, and she blows the smoke into my mouth. First time I ever smoked pot. Started buying it. Eventually, I remember buying Oxycontin for the first time, a 40 milligram. Somebody I knew was getting constant prescriptions, and I'd buy them for $20 a piece, and you take the coating off. And I have to be honest here, it was just a euphoria I had never felt with any other drug. It was just pure, any problems, you could sit in the pouring rain with, wounds, you could be in the worst situation and it felt like you were in Disneyland. It was just pure, there's a reason people get addicted to this. And I did. I remember this was the final hook. I bought 3 200 milligram morphine sulfate tablets from a girl I knew, and I took one a day. I took the coating off. This is the time I accidentally lit myself on fire. I did a video talking about that too, which is not funny, but it happened. And over the period of those 3 days, I became an opioid addict. After that, I was still working at the time. I was working as a draftsman at a computer, and I didn't even realize that I was addicted. I didn't even realize that I was an addict at that point. I'd have to go to work the next day, and I couldn't sleep all night. I'd be fidgeting. I could not sleep all night. My nose was constantly running. I thought, something I ate. Seriously. And this just went on. This went on for a couple of weeks, and then I had other sources. Like I was still getting prescribed Vicodin from my doctor for back surgery. So. Plus I would have constant diarrhea to the point where I'd have to change my underclothes. And I thought this was something I didn't even realize. I honestly honestly, at that point, I did not even know that I was already an addict at that point. Once, I figured this out, the Vicodin prescriptions eventually ended. I drove to the area of town where I knew heroin was being sold. I had never bought heroin before. I bought plenty of coke or crack, but I had never bought heroin. And it was easy and it was cheap. It was usually $10 a bag. This was back in probably around the year 2000, over 23 years ago. Or you buy 5 bags for $30, or you buy 10 bags for $60, $6 a bag. At that point, all it took was 1 or 2 bags, and I became an addict. I started using this. It got to the point where I had to have this every single day. It got to the point where there was no longer a high. That as soon as I woke up, I immediately needed this in order just to get out of bed, or the diarrhea, the fidgetiness, and it's not just physical; it's mental. Your mind just gets. I can't even describe to you the mental. Your brain no longer works. It gets on this one track, and it repeats. It's like a skipping record. I became an addict. On the days, now every morning, I had to get this drug every single day. And I'm going to do a video talking about my worst with Mother's Day is coming up. I'm going to tell you guys about a doozy of the worst Mother's Day I ever had. And boy, it is, you want to talk about a bad day. This is a coming video. And on the dates, I couldn't buy it ahead of time because I would use all the drug, no matter my best intentions. If I bought 10 bags for tomorrow, I would use all the bags the day before. I would always have to buy new bags on that day. And on the day that I couldn't get the drugs, I would just buy another drug. I would buy cocaine. And I know that all cocaine does, if you look this up, cocaine actually makes a person more sick. It's something I knew that would make my situation worse. I would leave my house with money to go get the heroin. And at this point, it was kind of hit or miss. Heroin dealers only sold in the morning. Crack dealers usually sold at night, right? And sometimes I wouldn't be able to find a dealer, and I would never go home with the money. Never go home with the money. Instead, I would go buy crack, which I knew would make me automatically sick. If you look into the medical standpoint of this, when you give cocaine to somebody in withdrawals and heroin withdrawals, it makes them even sicker. The cocaine gets on the receptors and pushes the rest of the opiates, whatever remains, off the receptors. And the person gets even sicker. And I knew this would happen, but I couldn't go home with the money. I had to buy some drug, even if it made me feel 100 times worse. This makes no sense at all. And this happened every time. I would just end up buying another drug I remember throwing up in this passenger seat of my car as soon as I bought the crack and did it. And I spent all my money, and it made my situation even worse, because then when a heroin dealer did become available a couple hours later, I had already spent the money, and I'd have to go and beg, bore, and lie and steal to get more money, and I was already more sick. It made no sense whatsoever, but I never went home with that money just because the drug wasn't available. I just bought another drug every single time. And that's just part of the problem with this whole thing about blaming China or Mexico for fentanyl. It is not going to change a thing. It's going to make things worse. It's going to increase overdoses, because the first thing addicts are going to do is they're going to go out and they're going to find another opioid, and they're going to take as much of it as they could possibly take to try to try to duplicate the fentanyl that they had taken the day before, and they're going to overdose. And it's then when they figure it out, the golden triangle will bloom in sales, and they'll just switch to another drug, because this is addiction. It's not the fault of China or Mexico. The problem is addiction. Where there's a demand, there's a supply. That's my point. I hope people watch this video. Recovery is possible. I've been clean sober since October 23rd of 2006, 100% clean and sober. Recovery is possible. Have a good Monday.